Good morning. We'll call today's Housing, Urban Development and Zoning Committee meeting to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Cone. Alderwoman Schweitzer.
Present.
Alderwoman Keys.
Here.
Vice Chair Sonier. Alderman Browning.
Present.
Alderman Aldridge.
Present.
Chair Clark Hubbard.
Here.
Vice Chair Sonier. We have 6 present. We have a quorum.
Thank you. With that, I'll accept a motion to approve the minutes from Tuesday, February 10th, 2026.
So move.
It was moved by Alderman Aldridge and seconded by Alderman Browning that we accept the minutes from Tuesday, February 10th, 2026. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Cone. Alderwoman Schweitzer.
Aye.
Alderwoman Keys.
Aye.
Vice Chair Sonier. Alderman Browning. Alderman Aldridge.
Aye.
Chair Clark Hubbard.
Aye.
Vice Chair Sonier. We have 6 aye votes.
Right. With that, we successfully approved the minutes from Tuesday, February 10th, 2026. We will move forward in the agenda. Alderwoman Jamie Cox Antwi, you are recognized on Board Bill 131.
Maybe I'll just put a little closer.
Okay. Can you all hear me now? Okay. Okay, fantastic. Thank you, members of the committee. Today I'm here to present Board Bill 131. This board bill is an amendment of a cooperation agreement between the city and a nonprofit association, the Gateway Foundation. The reason for this cooperation agreement amendment is related to a parcel of land located in City Garden that has a building facility that the city has been sharing this cooperation agreement on for some time. The original intended use of this agreement was for primarily restaurant use, but since then that prior establishment has been vacated and the building is sitting vacant. What we would like to do is to be able to amend that cooperation agreement to expand the purpose of that use for the organization. And the organization would like to turn it into primarily a visitor center. And so this facility would include a visitor center, concession stand, available gallery space for potential artists and residents. And it will also be open to the community for other potential exhibit space. And so again, this agreement would just be expanding that use to allow the current organization in place to be able to amend it for that use. And with that, I'll take any questions from the committee.
All right. Did you have any speakers?
I don't have any necessary speakers, but I do have a member from the foundation in the audience.
Perfect. Madam Clerk, are there any public signed up to speak on Board Bill 131?
We have none.
Okay. We'll go forward with the committee. Alderman Cone.
Your mic's not on, Alderman.
Alderwoman Schweitzer.
Thank you so much. So the urban garden is a part of the parcel. That's the name of that parcel.
It's the building is like the terrace building, and
Okay.
it's located within the urban garden, city
Okay.
garden.
Okay, but it's the entire parcel is called the urban garden, or it's just part of it?
It's just part of it,
Okay.
my understanding.
And so that's been what has been the restaurant area before?
Yes, it's been primarily restaurant use for, I think, the last 6 years during COVID. But honestly, over that time, there's been a number of restaurants within that use.
Right.
It hasn't necessarily been able to exercise its full potential with that prior use.
Yeah, I've always enjoyed going to the restaurants there. I think it's a great space. And so you said it's going to be a visitor center?
That's correct.
Okay, and there will be food or there will not be?
Yes, there will be food and beverage concession available for the public.
Okay, awesome. I really love the space, and I think whatever we can do to be supportive of it, and more to happen there. I think that's great, and I'd love to hear from the Gateway Foundation about any plans and anything that we can do to be supportive as well. If they are going to give some testimony, just to give us an update. Thank you so much for being here today.
No problem.
Alderwoman Keys.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This sounds just so exciting. Can't wait to see what the new look of the venue will be. So I'm going to say congratulations in advance.
Thank you, Alderwoman, for that. I really appreciate it.
Alderman Brownie.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm familiar with the space. I'm familiar with the challenges it's had, and this seems like an excellent pivot in a way to activate the space in a new way. I appreciate the creative thinking and go to how else can we use the space, and would just further emphasize the need to continue to get more people downtown so that these types of uses can succeed. I think in another city with more population in its downtown, you'd see things more successful in areas which are like primarily walkable, and the city garden is a beautiful space. It's, I think, one of the most special things about our downtown, and so I hope this is successful, and I hope that this can help activate that space in a new way that we haven't seen before.
Thank you so much.
Alderman Aldridge.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I'm really excited that I know there's been challenges with this space to try to keep restaurants in. It's already hard to keep restaurants, especially in the atmosphere that we are operating in the world, but especially also at that location. I think the last one was like Burger 801 or something, which was really good, but it's always hard to try to get folks to know that, hey, that this is here. So, I totally support this being turned into a welcome center. I love walking the city gardens. There are so many like little nooks and crannies and cool little things that is in city gardens. Is, in my opinion, we got amazing parks, but it's a really good interaction park. And I think they recently added some new stuff like a Afro pick. I don't need it right now, but if it keeps growing, I will need it and have used it. But it's, I totally support this concept, changing to a welcome center with having smaller food. And with that, Madam Clerk, I would like to be added as a sponsor.
So noted.
Thank you so much, Alderman Aldridge.
No problem. Thank you.
Vice Chair Sanye.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, members of the committee. I just want to thank you for your leadership on this. I think this timing is perfect because I know the brick line is coming that's going to connect, Market Street from the soccer to the arch. And so I think this is great timing. I saw in the exhibit that it noted that this is also be a space for community events. I would echo what folks said. I love the space. I like walking through the space, and I think this is just an excellent time project. So, congratulations to you.
Thank you so much, Alderwoman.
All right. Do you have any closing? Anybody have any closing comments? Or if that, Alderwoman, you're welcome to close.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Again, I appreciate all the committee's comments for their support of what's going to be a potential great addition for downtown and for City Garden. I would like to just take a moment to cede some of my time to the representative. If you would like to speak just to the vision of the Visitor Center, just to address Alderwoman Schweitzer's question, if you would like. And if you could just describe a little bit of what the Visitor Center is going to entail and maybe accomplish for the committee, that would be great.
Sure. And ma'am, before you start speaking, can you speak your name and your title for the record and raise your right hand and swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please proceed.
Hello. Hi. I'm Dr. Heather Sweeney. I'm the Executive Director of the Gateway Foundation.
Excuse me. Can you speak loud into the mic? I can't hear you.
Oh, yes, I will. I will project. I'm going to hope that I can use my diaphragm, so I will project for you all to hear me. Thank you for having me. I'm going to say this morning. We haven't hit noon yet. So to give you some insight into what we're looking to do with the Terrace View space, you have all hit on some really key points of our goals for this reprogramming. We want this to be a community hub and a space in City Garden. We have so many neighbors and residents, tourists that come downtown, and it would be nice to have an extension of the City Garden experience in an interior space that prolongs that dwell time of individuals who come to City Garden. So we're looking to have it be that visitor center, that ambassador, that person, and that space that you can come to that's central into the City Garden acreage, and then offer some grab and go concessions, because we know that that is supportive of our visitors. Right? We have a lot of families with kiddos, and I know my next. So for them to be able to have something while they're visiting. And then also we're looking to position it as a destination for extension programming for arts and culture organizations here in St. Louis. So we're looking to extend that experience because that is such a resonance with City Garden in our 29 sculptural works. So we're hoping that this is going to be both programmatic for the public, but also just a public amenity in general.
Does anyone have any questions?
I don't have a question. I would just like to make a motion to embank this.
All right. All right.
Alicia, objection.
Objection to previous rule.
Excuse me, I didn't hear the motion.
I made a motion to embank and Alderwoman Schweitzer seconded, and then I think Madam Chairwoman is about to do a roll call. Roll call.
Thank you. It was moved by Vice Chair Sanye and seconded by Alderwoman Schweitzer that we move Board Bill 131 and bank. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Cone.
Aye.
Alderwoman Schweitzer.
Aye.
Alderwoman Keys.
Aye.
Vice Chair Saunier.
Aye.
Alderman Browning.
Aye.
Alderman Aldridge.
Aye.
Chair Clark Hubbard.
Aye.
We have 7 aye votes.
All right. Now you're welcome to close.
Thank you so much, Madam Chairwoman, and thank you to the Alderwoman of the 7th Ward for making that motion. I truly appreciate this.
Excuse me, could you all please speak into the mics? I can barely hear anyone on the board. Thank
Okay,
you.
how about this? Okay. I was just thanking the Alderwoman of the 7th for that motion and for the committee for this unanimous support of this board bill. Again, I think this true asset, not only for the downtown community, but for the broader community who comes and visits City Garden. So with that, Madam Chairwoman, I close. And I ask for your favorable consideration of Board Bill 131.
I make a motion that we pass Board Bill 131 with the due pass recommendation.
Second.
It was moved by Vice Chair Sanye and seconded by Alderman Cone that we move Board Bill 131 and bank with the due pass recommendation with a call for previous roll. With no objections, congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, now we can move forward. You are recognized again on Board Bill 132.
Thank you so much, Madam Chairwoman. Board Bill 132 is a vacation bill related to the MacArthur Bridge downtown. I did share a brief image and exhibit to the board bill if you all would like to reference that with where this location is. But basically there is a portion of the MacArthur Bridge that is located on the Illinois side of the bridge that is currently still owned by the city property. Obviously with any infrastructure piece, there's a cost to maintain that piece. And with this portion of property being on the Illinois side of the river, we felt it was in the best interest of the city to vacate that portion and return the rights of that property to East St. Louis and the state of Illinois. So this board bill just outlines where that property is and vacates the right of way of that and directs BPS to do so. And with that, I'll take any questions from the committee.
All right. Did you have any speakers for Board Bill 132?
Oh, yes,
Okay.
we have one online.
All right. What's their name?
Kevin Trapp.
Mr. Trapp, can you turn your camera on? Oh,
Here in the front. I'm sorry. Come on up.
perfect timing.
Okay.
Perfect timing. Mr. Trapp, can you, when you begin, state your name and your title, and can you raise your right hand swear to tell the whole truth and but the truth?
I do. My name is Kevin Trapp. I am with the Board of Public Service. I am the Chief Bridge Engineer for the City of St. Louis. You don't know what I need to do.
Oh, they said you were a speaker?
Okay.
Yes.
The City of St. Louis owns a bridge over in East St. Louis. It was the top vehicular deck of the Free Bridge. When the city built it and owned it over 100 years ago. We swapped ownership with the railroad company, HUDZ Bridge, back in the 80s. The vehicular bridge was taken off the entire main bridge except for, excuse me, I'm out of breath, about a 2,000-foot section over on the east side where the railroad bridge kind of cuts off to the south and the vehicular bridge went to the east or northeast. The city maintained ownership of that bridge. It's about 2,000 feet long. We have demolished about 900 feet of it, but we still have a third of a mile of a bridge. It's barricaded off. It's a liability. There's YouTube videos of people climbing all over it. The mayor of East St. Louis wants it. He's going to demolish it, I believe. He probably thinks it's scrap metal. The city does not want it. It's a huge liability. We should get rid of it. That's what I have to say. I apologize. I was not
You're
better
fine.
prepared.
You're fine, absolutely. Okay, we'll go for Alderman Cone.
Thank you. Just curious, have we ever vacated a bridge and donated it to another entity in the history of the city? There was a city-owned bridge.
We have given away ownership of bridges, but it obviously doesn't happen very often.
Yeah,
Not
I
often
mean,
we
the
own a
two
bridge
that
outside
maybe
of this.
come to mind be the Eads Bridge possibly, and maybe the Chain of Rocks Bridge, but I'm not necessarily familiar with the ownership structures of those at the time that they were taken possession by their current entities. Chain of Rocks is now owned by TrailNet, I believe, and then the Eads Bridge, I believe, is owned by Metro, if I'm not mistaken. But I just think it's important that we have some context in terms of the decisions that we're making and not just what's happening right before us now as well.
So the city does own the vehicular deck of the East Bridge. Metro or Bi-State owns everything below it. That was part of the ownership swap with Terminal Railroad in the 80s. They owned all of Eads Bridge and we owned all of the Free Bridge. And there's I forget the ordinance number, but it was just a straight up swap of ownership. There's a bridge on River de Pere Boulevard, close to Broadway, that we have given ownership of to the county. That's the only one I'm really aware of.
Okay.
This is not something we typically do, obviously.
So if we're vacating this and quit claiming, I'm just reading the summary here, but it doesn't mention sale to East St. Louis or East St. Louis taking possession of this. So I'm just concerned, East St. Louis isn't exactly flush with cash either to address the concerns of it.
So if I can just speak to the detail, it's not located in the summary, but in the legislation, we specifically specify, and I believe it's also for $1. It's the value of the sale. So again, it's a small portion, about 2,000 of the bridge. So it's not an entire swath, and there is an actual transaction, if you will, but it's for $1.
I guess where I'm going here is, I don't want to put the burden of demolition or maintenance onto a community that isn't able to afford it either.
So they requested it. This is, we didn't reach out to them asking them to take the bridge. They reached out to the city and said they want it.
Do we have that in writing somewhere? I mean, aside from them signing and executing an agreement?
I don't.
I don't necessarily have a copy of it in writing, but I understand that BPS has been having discussions about this portion of a bridge for a very long time. I think over a year was what Rich Bradley referenced. So this has been an ongoing discussion about East St. Louis wanting to take ownership back of this property. And I will also just mention the cost burden of it for the city of St. Louis. It would be substantial if we were to retain the cost of demolition. And as Keith mentioned, the safety concerns with having pedestrians accessing this portion of the bridge is also a liability for the city as well. So it's not just retaining the cost, but it's also retaining the liability. And again, this property is located in Illinois, so it's not even in the state of Missouri.
Okay. Okay, I have no further questions. Thank you.
Alderwoman Schweitzer.
Thank you so much. Those were great questions and very helpful context. Is there an idea of how much the city is paying every year to either have some sort of insurance, or is there no insurance? Well, the city is self-insured. Does the city insure this bridge?
I assume it's under our general self-insurance. We don't
Okay.
pay for it, other than, I believe, the fence over there is maintained.
Sure.
It's every couple of years someone
I
checks
just
it.
wondered if there was any way to quantify the cost to the city yearly of retaining ownership of the bridge versus selling it for
No,
$1.
but we do have an estimate of like $3 million to demo it.
Okay, so a significant cost to just demo. Okay. And that's the only path forward with this bridge. There's no reuse or anything. There's no,
It will never again
because it doesn't
cross the
span.
river. The
Right.
Terminal Railroad owns the main bridge, and they specifically in this deal said no more vehicles ever on this bridge. So it's truly a bridge to nowhere.
Okay, perfect. That's a very helpful reasoning there. So thank you so much, and I support this.
If I could just add quick context to the Alderwoman's question, the pedestrian side of the Missouri and City of St. Louis side of the bridge, which would be in my ward, was vacated a long time ago for pedestrian access, so there is no other exit point as well. It's truly solely for the terminal railroad use that the purpose of this bridge exists today.
Are you finished? Okay. Alderwoman Keys.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have no questions. Thank you.
Alderman Aldridge. I'm sorry, Alderman Browning.
Thank you, Alderwoman. So just looking at a map here, it looks like this, you mentioned part of this has already been demolished. And then I think what I'm looking at on the map here is the part that remains is just east of Route 3. And it kind of comes down and lands onto Reber Street in East St. Louis, Reber/10th.
Yes.
Okay, that's, and then there's you mentioned $3 million in the capital improvement plan to demolish this part of the bridge. By selling this to East St. Louis for $1, did you say? Are we getting rid of that $3 million that we would need to spend to demolish it?
Yes.
So this is a real win for the city in that we're getting rid of a $3 million liability.
In my opinion, 100% win.
If you could just speak in the mic.
In my opinion, it's 100% win for the city.
Okay, that was my question. Looking back about what could have been, I wish we could have kept the vehicle deck and turned it into a pedestrian deck like the Chain of Rocks, which Alderman Cohn mentioned is now, I think it's owned by the city of Madison and it's maintained by TrailNet. But nevertheless, this is a really cool bridge. History told a different story, and now I think it's a good decision to go ahead and let go of this piece so that we can save the city money and hopefully help East St. Louis get rid of that nuisance for them as well. So no more questions, and I'd like to be added as a co-sponsor.
So noted.
Now, Alderman Aldridge.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Thank you, Alderwoman, for bringing this legislation forward. Just to be clear, this would be us entering into an agreement to sell a city good. Would you say that's what we would be doing?
We are vacating a portion of the property that the city currently owns.
And we'll be selling it for $1.
That is correct in terms of the action that the bill is taking, yes.
Okay. Seems like a familiar path we've been down, a road of selling things. I guess the bridge is good to do. Do East St. Louis have the funds to, I guess, do the demolition of, well, going back to Alderman Cohn's point, it's not like they're, if we struggling to be able to have the funds in St. Louis, I doubt like St. Clair, I think the county is where they're at, have the funds. So have there been any conversations that they will have the funds to be able to actually do the demolition? Is that the goal for them to do it instead of us?
So I am not privy to necessarily what available funds the city of East St. Louis has. I understand our obligation here is to make decisions on behalf of the city of St. Louis, best interest of the city of St. Louis. That said, my understanding is that this property is located within their area and their boundaries, and they have expressed interest in the property. So I think if the city is wanting to take back ownership of a property that's located on their side of the river, that should be well within their right to make that decision.
Okay. And maybe there's some questions for BPS lead director. I see you walked in to. Is it okay to ask you a question, director?
Yeah, I'm happy to Director Bradley.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Committee. Rich Bradley, President of the Board of Public Service. Just a little bit of background. So Mayor Powell requested from Mayor Jones the ownership of this approach. This is not an active bridge. It will never be an active bridge. It is simply a piece of structure that sits there in a piece of city-owned right-of-way. It is the only piece of city-owned right-of-way that we have in Illinois that I am aware of. Serves no useful purpose. The mayor's plan in East St. Louis is to remove the bridge and develop that area into some kind of a housing development. We don't have a lot of details on it, but the conversation was yes, they would remove it and develop it with funding that they had. There is also a letterhead agreement between Mayor Jones and Mayor Powell that they requested ownership of this. And so when we finish this board bill, assuming we finish this board bill and ordinance, we will do a full agreement with the city of East St. Louis to take ownership of.
Thank you. Thank you for the kind of the background. That's all I got right now.
Thank you. Vice Chair Sanya.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, members of the committee. I think that I understand pretty straightforwardly what this bill is attempting to do. I think one of the positives of it is that it will allow for longer and wider railroad cars on the approaches, and I think that's a positive. And the new gridders will be able to extend the life of the bridge to 2085. I just wanted to highlight that for folks who might be watching at home, some of the pluses of doing what we're doing. I think infrastructure-wise, those are good moves to make. So in addition to not having to spend money on maintaining a bridge that doesn't necessarily serve a purpose and of which we only owned a part of anyway, creating this better, situation where it can have a longer lifespan and where those railroad cars will be able to be bigger and have more space, I think is also beneficial. So I don't have any questions for the Alderwoman. Thank you.
All right, thank you. You're welcome to close.
All right. Thank you so much, Madam Chair, members of the committee, for your questions
Did I call
today.
for public comment?
Oh, no, but we
Okay,
can.
yeah, let me make sure. Madam Clerk, was there anybody signed up to speak on Board Bill 132?
We have none.
Okay, great. Now we can proceed.
Thank you. Again, I would like to just reiterate a number of things that were covered in the questions. I think this action is a net benefit for the city in terms of relinquishing a portion of property that we're not in the best position to maintain, and also allowing the area and the jurisdiction on which the property sits to take full control and direction of that property. So with that, I ask for your favorable consideration of Board Bill 132.
I make a motion that we pass Board Bill 132 with the due pass recommendation.
Second.
It was moved by Vice Chair Sanya and seconded by Alderman Cone that we move back Board Bill 132 due pass recommendation. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Cone.
Aye.
Alderwoman Schweitzer.
Aye.
Alderwoman Keys.
Aye.
Vice Chair Saunier.
Aye.
Alderman Browning.
Aye.
Alderman Aldridge.
Aye.
Chair Clark Hubbard.
Aye.
We have 7 aye votes.
All right, with that, you successfully passed Board Bill 132. Congratulations again.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you all.
Alderwoman Schweitzer, you're recognized on Board Bill 160.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman and members of the committee for hearing this bill today. There are actually 2 bills on water spends and needed water infrastructure repair in front of us today. One is around interest allocation for ARPA funds and one is about reallocation. We'll start with the bill on the interest spend and get that going first, and then I will not ask you today for a vote on the reallocation, giving some more time for the departments to go through those numbers and make sure that all of the numbers are correct and all of the, if there's any other movement that needs to happen, we do that work here in committee. So today on Board Bill 160, this is a $1.2 million allocation of ARPA interest funds for the Water Division regarding repair of infrastructure and replacement of infrastructure. So Director Patel has been kind enough to come here and talk with us today and has some really good background on the needs of the Water Division in topic of water infrastructure and repair, as well as looking forward how to make sure that not only the needs that are able to be met by these bills are addressed, but also the much larger needs of the Water Division, which will be met only by a package of funding. So I will let Director Patel speak to that and turn it over to you. Thank you, if that's all right with Chairwoman. Thank you so much. Director Patel?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Neeraj Patel. I'm the Director of Public Utilities for the City of St. Louis Water Division. So Board Bill 160, the $1.2 million, is set up for water infrastructure repair and replacement. This funding, along with the other board bill, is necessary. We presented recently about our financial position, to the Public Infrastructure and Utilities Committee. We are in the process of a water rate review for water rate sufficiency study that will come out in early March and maybe have recommendations on whether or not the revenues that the Water Division is receiving are sufficient to cover the costs to operate and maintain and improve as necessary the division and all of the assets that it owns. This amount of funding in Board Bill 160, we do have set aside a list of critical water main replacements in residential areas in the city. The list currently sits at over 64 projects that we've identified. These are located all across the city. And they do range in cost, but approximate about $500,000 each. The average length of these are a city block. These are 6, 8, and 12-inch mains in the city, sometimes approaching a little bit larger, but they serve the residential areas in the city. We do intend to put these funds in Board Bill 160 to use to do a subset of these projects, probably 2 or 3 of them that we've identified. One of them being a main in Weber Road. It's a 12-inch main. We've had a high number of failures at this main. 1,000 feet of 12-inch main replacement that would save us ongoing emergency costs that we're experiencing. Another one is at Keokuk. It's approximately 450 feet of 8-inch main and 1,250 feet of 6-inch main between Alexander and Bamberger. Another one is in Semple Avenue. These are just examples. This is 650 feet of 10-inch main and 750 feet of 8-inch main that, again, has had historically high number of breaks. That asset needs to be replaced now instead of just continuing to address these repairs, which are a high cost. Additionally, we do know that we have a number of valves out in the system, that are frozen or inoperable. Examples of this were seen when we recently had over 100 main breaks, after the cold snap here in Tower Grove South. There were a number of broken valves that caused us challenges in doing those repairs to restore service to that area. We've identified these valves that need replacement. We've replaced some of them, but not all of them. An additional area is actually in Jefferson between Wyoming and Utah. We've had an ongoing issue there with failed valves that need to be replaced. These projects are necessary. They are costly, but we will put these dollars to use immediately to repair or replace this infrastructure. And replacement is critical here because it does renew that asset's service life for a much longer period of time And it is more efficient to replace water main, replace valves than to attempt to do repairs to try to save some money. So that's pretty much what I've got here today. But this is a amount of funding that will help us to get started with some meaningful renewal. And then the other bill as well will provide a necessary lifeline for us to continue operations, maintenance, and doing the capital renewal that we are doing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for providing more of that background. I'll just point out a few of the numbers that he said there. 64 mains that desperately need this attention, and this can address 3 of them. That is a significant difference in the amount of need and the amount that can be addressed with this bill. I know that I sound like a broken record or a broken water main if I keep talking about this, but the Water Division has so much need. We know it, you know it, our residents know it. I really appreciate the mayor's office working to make sure some of this ARPA interest goes to this incredible need. So thank you so much for your time. I'm happy to answer any questions on this specific bill and happy to take just any support you have for it. I appreciate.
Madam Clerk, is there any public comment signed up for Board Bill 160?
We have none.
All right. Alderman Cone.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just curious, with the 64 mains that need to be replaced that are high priority, critical, what would be the total cost to replace all of those?
Thank you. Director Patel did quote a $500,000 figure per 64 on average. So let's
32
see.
million.
32 million. There you go. 32.
So it's an astronomical number when you're thinking about it, and I'm curious with the 3, and I know Director Patel, you kind of highlighted how and why you're choosing those 3. Can you just reiterate how those are the priority? And I'm just thinking in the back of my mind, there's a water main that seems to have broken 5 or 6 times on Gustine, south of Merrimack. And whenever that goes out, probably a good quarter of my ward seems to be impacted by it. Can you just highlight why those 3 are taking priority at this point in time?
Sure. I mean, they are all priority, but we do have them ranked based on number of recent breaks. We update that regularly. These mains that are aged out all need to be replaced. But again, you can't do all of that without that amount of funding available. So, we do have about $28 million estimated for that list of main replacement, but, we are in the throes of the water master plan. We do have an internal capital project list that is up over $700 million. You cannot bite all of that apple at once. And so we do have to start with some of the ones that are causing us the highest costs and the highest number of recent breaks. But if the funding is available, if we do collect on, higher amounts of the debt that we're owed and get other funding sources in, maybe as recommended by the rate sufficiency study and another increase to allow us to do more capital work, then we would address more of those projects. I'm familiar with the main that you talked about in Tower Grove South and Gustine. We did replace a number of valves that allow us to minimize the area that is impacted when that main breaks. And we did do the repairs this go around, but we do have a need to replace mains in that area as well. So, these replacements are dotted all across the city. And it is just a matter of prioritizing them based on the recent break history and the recent costs that we've seen.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the one in Tower Grove South as well. That's Gustine north of Gravois. I'm talking about Gustine south of Merrimack, which is in the Dutchtown area. Gustine south of Merrimack and Dutchtown, at least during my tenure, has had several breaks over the years. I can appreciate the magnitude of this situation. I've been very supportive of the Alderwoman's efforts in terms of, prioritizing funding for these, through whatever means we can. I'm just curious, though. Thank you. I don't know where that happened, but whoever made the adjustment on the microphone, Alderman Aldridge, thank you. So I am curious, are we having conversations with the comptroller's office, the administration, et cetera, on bonding out? I mean, you mentioned a $700 million capital need. What are those conversations in terms of bonding out from either a fee increase or if we do have ARPA interest or other interest accounts that we're able to use to pay on bonds? What are those conversations looking like right now?
Sure. So we are in conversation with the comptroller's office, the state of Missouri, which has SRF funding available. Our financial advisor and PFM. Taking a look at the funding approach for this large list. The Water Master Plan also has a task item to look at the funding approach and stack for this level of reinvestment into the water system. So there's a lot of factors that we are looking at and considering. We don't have that all figured out right now. I know we have some bond authorization available. We do have an application into the state for $35 million package of SRF that would require bonds being issued and purchased by the state. That would have a lower interest rate, but also some other requirements there. So, but we know that these ARPA dollars also have the shortest time frame here. This interest is a little different, but the reallocation piece as well. So it is an approach that is taking all those factors into consideration. And, just to reiterate, we don't intend on stopping with 2 or 3 replacement projects as we build out our capacity in engineers, which we have a high vacancy in, project managers, which we have a vacancy in. We have to grow with the funding that's available, restaff to be able to meet that challenge and need as well, and then address more of that list, identify more issue areas, which the master plan is taking a look at to reduce the ongoing issue of high occurrence of water main breaks and save emergency costs and instead renew the system which has served us for so long.
All right. Thank you, Director. Look forward to working with you on addressing these needs and continue to keep up the good work addressing the quality of water for all of our residents.
Thank you.
Alderwoman Keys.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I have no questions, but I would like to just tie on to Alderman Combs' comments. I'm in total agreement. We've had our share of water issues over northern part of our city, and I'm a big fan of anything that we can do to help our residents as well as get these issues that we're having with one of our most precious assets here in the city, which is our water. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderwoman Schweitzer and Director Patel. I really appreciate the clear-eyed approach at which we're approaching this issue. I think everyone in the city has experienced some level of impact from water main breaks or other issues from our aging infrastructure over the last several years. And it is very clear that this is a problem we needed to address years ago, but what we can do now can make a big difference. As you pointed out, saving money on emergency costs, it's not just about replacing things, but it's also about making sure that we're not spending unnecessary money on when it's an emergency. I highly encourage anyone who wants to know more about this to go back to the January 14th meeting of the Public Infrastructure and Utilities Committee. We had a wonderful presentation from you, Director, on exactly all of the needs and the financial situation of the Water Division. It really spelled out the need for ongoing investment. And as the Alderwoman from the 11th just pointed out, this is this issue that affects every corner of our city. So I'm very, very grateful that we're able to get a little bit of money but just to be clear, 1.2 was it 1.2 million is, as we discussed, it covers only a small fraction. It's a drop in the bucket when it comes to what we actually need for our water. So this is going to be an ongoing effort, but we really appreciate the administration working with you to find this money today to get us into a place where we can at least get started on this work. I believe I'm already a co-sponsor on this, but I just want to double check. It's not on the agenda, but if not, I'd like to make sure I'm a co-sponsor on this as well.
So noted.
I have no questions. Thank you.
Alderman Aldridge.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I'd like to make a motion we embank Board Bill 160.
It was moved by Alderman Aldridge and seconded by Vice Chair Sangye that we embank Board Bill 160 with a call for previous roll with no objections. Proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Thank you for bringing this bill forward, Alderwoman, getting kind of creative in ways to be able to support our water division. Water is the best asset we have, one of the best assets we have in the city of St. Louis. We have so many great assets. That's what make St. Louis so amazing. We got the best taste in water that there is. I've been to other cities and it just got that kind of chlorine taste, but when you taste St. Louis water, it tastes like it came from a natural spring. And we have to make sure that we continue to support our water department. I do have a question, and I didn't watch a public infrastructure meeting. I know this is only, with all the water puns, a drop in the bucket, but also I know outside of this, it seems like our water department is underwater. So how much, I guess, are we underwater? This is just to fix 3 valves or 3 lines, and then I know you have another bill that we won't take up today that will put more money to it. And it sounds like from the inquiry from the alderman from the 3rd, just to fix the valves is about $36 million, but that doesn't get us out of being under the water. So what is, I guess, our deficit in the water division?
Thank you. I think, first of all, thank you for the motion to embank and voting for that. I appreciate the support on this. As Director Patel pointed out, there are $700 million of need already pointed out on infrastructure. There are many vacancies in the water division for people like engineers who are crucial to the day-to-day operations. That is being addressed. Those vacancies have reduced in the last few years. Director Patel can speak more to all of this, but there is a master plan in the works now, a rate sufficiency study in the works. What I really like to think about with the water division is that investing in this division is directly investing back into the city and into ratepayers because this is a publicly owned utility. So when the city of St. Louis protects it, when the residents, when the ratepayers protect it, it just pays dividends for the future. As Alderman Keyes pointed out, it is our most precious resource. So while there are sizable investments that need to be made, it is like an investment in ourselves, in our future, when we do those things for the water division. Director Patel, if you want to speak more to the master plan and any kind of preliminary information that you're finding to Alderman Aldridge's questions, I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Sure. So, one of the task items in the master plan is a comprehensive update of the capital improvement list, the projects that are recommended, sequenced in time with cost estimates. This will be based on the condition assessments that we're doing of both the distribution system and the water treatment plants. That approach is more comprehensive and certainly has more backing with, the backing of a national consultant group that does this kind of work for other large water systems. The list that I mentioned that is up around $700 million is an internal list that we've maintained, with the knowledge of assets and their conditions. But this master plan will find additional projects, recommendations, and sequence that approach. So it is a little early to say what that number is that needs to get reinvested in the system. But it's also important to highlight that reinvesting in any asset is an ongoing thing. These assets do have a service life, just like your home. You need to do maintenance on it. You need to do some replacements and renewals on it. If you have a leaky roof or if you have a foundation that's starting to show issues, you need to address those things as they come up. And so, reinvestment in the water system is ongoing, but that renewal, pays itself back with savings. And so, part of the assessments that have been done in the master plan are showing that these critical mains and their replacement, can project out and maybe do some savings and not repairing a segment of main an additional 20 times, in the next 20, 30, 40 years, because you've done that proactive replacement of that asset, which is aged out. So, that's just a little bit about what's going on behind the scenes in the water master plan. And again, it does have that financial review and that funding approach built in as well. But it is an ongoing thing to continue renewing into the asset that has served us for so long, and we'll need to continue to serve the residents, the city, businesses that rely on water service, for generations to come.
Okay, thank you. And I hear the investment and, continuing to invest in our water benefits. I guess I was almost just honestly like looking for a number, because I believe right now we're eating into revenue. There's more expense than actual revenue, correct?
Director Patel, you can speak to.
Yes, there is. And so, we continue to borrow from the water contingent fund to make up a deficit in the budget annually. This is ongoing. It's been going on for 7 years or so, that every year when we do take a look at the budget and pass that budget, it borrows from the contingent fund rather than rebuilding it, even with the prior rate increases. And that is why we're doing another rate sufficiency study, taking a look at the capital needs as well, to project out what may need to happen to water rates, to address these needs in the future, and actually build that contingent fund back up.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I would really just like to add to that, that it has to be a package of investments. The bonds and the state revolving loan fund, which was mentioned earlier, those are things that are really important, and can only be accessed if the water division has money in that contingency fund to pay back, or in what's coming in through rates to pay back that debt. One of the things I always really like to point out is that the water division has almost no debt. I believe there's a $9 million debt within the last 15 years that was taken on. And then if you compare that with an asset like the airport, which has over $500 million of debt, you can think about how much more the water division could do if it was borrowing more money, knowing that these investments last, ideally they're being replaced more than within 100 years, but some of those investments have lasted the city of St. Louis upwards of 50, 75 years. So this is something that, again, can be protected now to pay dividends later, to make sure this remains a publicly owned asset.
Vice Chair Sanya.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Firstly, Director Patel, I really appreciate you're always responsive. I know that in a lot of ways you're trying to make $1 out of 50 cents, and have got to experience firsthand the many issues that happen. I had a water main break that was several feet, I think 32 feet or 34 feet long. We have had a number of issues, and you and your team and your office have always been helpful, including when we had snow and ice, and I was really concerned about a break and that becoming ice when it freezing for many days, and I saw hardworking staff get out there and address those issues. So I always just want to start by thanking you for your leadership in navigating us, getting through these times. I would agree with the comments that have been made before me around, I'm really a fan of our water company because it is one of the few public goods and public assets that we have, and I really would like to keep it as a public utility. And I think we've seen several examples across the country of what happens when we don't take care of them. And we know that there are always folks who are looking to privatize things. But as we have other conversations, I think we can see the benefit of, what it might look like to have a water company and regulate certain things versus when a company is a little bit more private, like an Ameren. So I really appreciate that. For me, my questions are just really aimed around kind of clarity and future planning. So this 1.2 million is really primarily going towards the 3 locations of Keokuk, River Road, and what was the third one? And are those the correct correct locations?
Those are higher priority ones that we've identified. The other one is Semple and Bircher.
Thank you. And all of the 64 that you've identified that need investment, those are all current critical or priority?
Correct.
And can you explain to me what the level of tiers or categories are in general for evaluating them?
Yeah, so the age of the asset, when that main was installed, the number of breaks that we've experienced in the last 5 years, and then the total number of breaks that we've experienced over that service life of that asset.
Understood. I guess my other question kind of gets along the things that were mentioned by the committee where there was the comptroller. I think one of the things that is alarming to me is it does seem like the city is the only one that seems to be invested in the water infrastructure. Do you have anyone on your team or on your staff who looks at federal funds or state funds or has those conversations about pursuing grants? Or, I know we mentioned the bond of the comptroller, but there are, a lot of other dollars, and I see other cities kind of taking advantage of that, and I don't see it here. And even in regards to the debt comment, I became very familiar with bonds when I was on the school board, and I think I'm not against us having bonds and having debt, and I actually think that maybe we haven't approached that the right way, because the whole point of government levying debt is you're making a fiscal investment for the long term. And so I would rather us have a couple million in debt and then not need 32 million just to do some basic fixes to evolve. So I don't really know that we've been taking the best, in my opinion, financial approach to this. But I am curious about just your staff and your team, or what support you do or don't have in regards to pursuing other funds, because obviously you have a huge role. I deal with your other staff all the time, and I'm just wanting to understand what other conversations are, or what might be helpful for you to be able to pursue some of those other funding opportunities.
Sure. No, thank you for the question. It's a very important piece. We do have a fiscal team internally here at the Water Division. We've got an executive team that takes a look at these things. I mentioned our engineering staff, who does a lot of the project planning and execution of these projects. In the past, bonds and debt issuance have been leveraged, going back to the 80s and 90s, again in the 2000s. Typically, we'll take a look at our rates at the same time to make sure that they are in order, able to support that new level of debt, that we don't have a deficiency in a rate sufficiency study to provide that up-to-date information. A lot of that is a challenge, though, when we can't support the ongoing annual operating costs of the division, with the revenues themselves. And so, that is why we're taking this approach to do this rate sufficiency study, build in some capital projects that are urgent and critical, and then, be in a position to go acquire the debt. Alderman Schweitzer, I think, mentioned it and cleared it up, that we do have to be in a position to be able to pay that debt back. That has been a challenge. By way of the federal funding, we are taking a look at that. For drinking water utilities, the federal funding comes through the state, which does have primacy over the Safe Drinking Water Act. And the State Revolving Fund program is a program that was set up to address these capital challenges that water utilities faced with, improper funding mechanisms that existed. Things have changed over the years, and so there are new opportunities and funding mechanisms, debt instruments that are available. So we don't want to lock only into one type of funding. But when it comes to some of the infrastructure funding that is out there right now, part of the challenge is that it is a loan product that is being offered, unless the community is disadvantaged. And some of the factors that the state of Missouri looks at for deeming a water system disadvantaged do include that the rates are a little too high for the residents to support. We don't meet that criteria because of our low rates. There are other factors that play in as well, economic factors, but we do score high in some of those criteria. But largely speaking, the debt is a loan product, and it does have to be repaid back. But it is a tool to leverage, and we intend to leverage bonds to be able to do that long-term renewal and spread that cost out over time.
Thank you. That was a very thorough explanation. So what I took away from that is that the next rate conversation is going to be really critical, because that rate has to be something that looks appetizing to possible grants or funders or loans for us to be able to provide evidence that we can pay them back. And right now the rate is so low that it's hard to provide that evidence that we would be in position to pay those loans back.
Correct. They do take a look at your financial stability, and we need to be stable in order to apply for some of these products. Whether it's the federal stuff through the EPA or the stuff directly through the states, or a private financial option in the bond market.
Okay, thank you. That really does complete majority of my questions. I guess to just flag I would raise is, I am curious, I know you have 64 marked, but knowing how uninvested, I do wonder how long will that number be 64 before it jumps up again. So I definitely would hope that we could start having more proactive conversations about investments, because I think that 64 number, if we probably talk in 3 or 4 months, will be higher and will continue to go up. So I would just raise that flag, but that's not really a question for you. Thank you.
To that,
thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. To that point, when the water division we were having these conversations about rates in the past, the number for the capital needs inventory was closer to $400 million. And with more time that's gone on since the water rate increase in 2023, 2024, that has dramatically changed to $700 million. And I, to your point, agree completely that as they do more proactive investigations, there's going to be more need found. And I want to say, for the importance of having those public conversations, the last time we had a water rate increase, it happened quickly. It was an emergency. The money was needed then for what we saw then with the main breaks, but were emergencies. But we can learn from things, and not everything needs to be treated as a 2-week emergency. Sometimes we have emergencies that are months of discussion, and it needs to be that kind of proactive, upfront information getting to the people to make sure we're talking about this need and this asset. That said, the Public Infrastructure and Utilities Committee has had already that one conversation in January with the Water Division. They sent a letter to Chairman Browning and to the Mayor's office, pointing out the different needs that they expressed with both urgent capital investments as well as rate sufficiency study gone. And they gave a really great presentation. They're scheduled to return on March 4th at 3:30 p.m. to continue that conversation as that rate sufficiency study moves along. At that time, with all of that said, there is conversation with the Water Division, the Mayor's office, my office, Alderman Browning's office, with the Consumers Council and and everyone who's at the table about how to have a rate review process after a rate is found or suggested by the rate sufficiency study. And that is so important, because that rate review, while this isn't a utility that's under the purview of the Public Service Commission, it's under the purview of the City of St. Louis, is really incumbent upon us to have that thoughtful discussion and have multiple times for people to weigh in on it. I do want to applaud the Water Division for putting a note in everyone's water and trash bill that says there is a rate sufficiency study going on. Go to the website, learn more. This is what's happening, so that people are getting that information right to their door, right to their mailbox about this conversation months ahead of when this conversation is really going to ramp up. So that is just, I think, really important, both from having the money on an ongoing basis to meet the needs, to pay the bonds, to be smart, responsible stewards of this resource, as well as recognize what that allows the cities to even apply for. if the rates are so low that the city is looked at as an asset that's not meeting its own needs or has not taken on that responsibility of its asset. So those are really great questions, and I just appreciate you asking them. March 4th, please come, Public Utilities meeting.
Thank you.
All right, with that, if nobody has any further questions or comments, Alderwoman, you're welcome to close.
Thank you so much. I would ask for your favorable consideration of Board Bill 160 and a due pass recommendation.
I make a recommendation that we pass Board Bill 160 with a due pass recommendation.
Second.
Previous row.
It was moved by Vice Chair Sanye and seconded by Alderman Browning with the call for previous roll with no objection. Congratulations, Madam. May proceed with Board Bill 161.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, and thank you, members of the committee. Board Bill 161, in a similar way, is taking American Rescue Plan Act money and reallocating it to the Water Division to meet many of the needs that we've already spent this time discussing. This is a reallocation bill, and right now the bill is for $6,866,460.48. That is a very specific number because these are very specific funds that are being asked to you today to reallocate from funds that will not be able to be spent for whatever reason to the Water Division. This is something that we should spend more time on as a committee, and it's important to really get right as we head into the deadline of the end of this year to spend all of the American Rescue Plan Act money. So I'm not asking you all for a vote on this bill today. I want to give the City of St. Louis departments that are have worked so hard to put these numbers together, the mayor's office and the partners in the community, some more time to discuss this and make sure those numbers are right, whether that's moving a little bit up from that number or moving a little bit down. I think will be figured out within the next week to make sure that it's as correct as possible, so we're not looking at any future amendments as we do, want to spend all of these, every cent down to that 48 cents. So today I do have Caitlin Smith from the mayor's office to speak on the bill as it is now. And as I said, there will be more departments here next week to speak to those reallocations. And I'd be very interested in any questions you all would like to ask now for us to bring back to those departments so they can be most prepared for you next. But if it's all right with the chairwoman, I'd love to turn it over to Ms. from the mayor's office.
Swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Please
Caitlin
proceed.
Smith, Policy Advisor to the Mayor. Yeah, so as Alderwoman Schweitzer said, this board bill is just reappropriating some ARPA funds all to the Water Division. The mechanism it is using is to replace funds that the Water Division lost during COVID from the increase of revenues that were, or the increased costs that the Water Division was having, as well as the decrease in revenues that the Water Division was bringing in. So we're able to do that through the mechanism that the Treasury put out. So this is like the simplest way that the city can make sure we are keeping the money. And then when it comes to specific department questions, I have some answers, but mostly we'll be bringing all the departments in next week to be able to answer exactly like why funds couldn't be used. We're also creating a fact sheet like the last reappropriation board bill that we had that Alderwoman Clark Hubbard sponsored a year-ish ago. Very similar, breaking down exactly why this project was completed but it had this amount of funds left over. And the hope is to be able to share that by the end of this week, so that way you guys have the weekend and a day or two to look over it before we have committee next week.
Well, first of all, I cannot say how proud I am of you standing here in this position, seeing the way you have elevated. It's very inspiring. So I'm excited for you. You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
You're doing a great job. So just for clarity and for the record, we want to make sure that we do put Board Bill 161 with that presentation on the agenda for next Tuesday, which is the 24th. And with that, I'll move forward through the committee. Alderman Cone.
No questions.
Alderwoman Keys,
I have no questions. Thank you.
Alderman Browning,
No questions.
Alderman Aldridge.
I guess let me break the train. Also, echo everything that the Alderwoman from the 10th said. So proud of you, Miss Caitlin, and glad to continue to work with you. So looking at the board bill, just getting questions. So, like I said, maybe some department heads can answer these. Just looking at where funds are being moved around in the exhibit, just got some questions of like why they're being moved around. So the first one out of Human Services, the 10,000 out of Impacted Tenants Fund. I'm sure you know I was going to ask that. What's up with that and why?
Yes. So this 10,000 is coming out of the administrative side of the fund. It was two separate contracts, one to the administrative side on what employment connections needed to set up the fund, and then a secondary fund for the contract on what would go directly to tenants. So this is on the administrative side of that project. They know that they will not need to spend at least this $10,000, and so they're back to the city to be able to reallocate. It can't, because they were separate contracts, it can't simply move over to the other side to go directly to tenants. And because of how the Treasury guidelines, we can't have this $10,000 go to any situation that's happening now, like the tornado. It would have to be for any impacted tenants that happened until 2022, end of 2025. So it wouldn't be able to be reallocated towards the tornado. So the simplest thing is to bring it back with how the impacted tenants fund was set up. It's not meant to be something that we can give money to a tenant for something that happened 2 years ago.
Gotcha. Okay, and then I see a lot of money coming from CDA. When we had the HUDZ hearing on November the, I think it was November the 4th or something like that. Anywho, CDA was here and they talked about how they had a lot of money. November the 18th. They had a lot of money that most likely was not going to be used. I think it was roughly around $4 million at the end of that spreadsheet of some of the ones that may be in question where those funds was not going to be used. Is that some of the money that we're seeing? And I didn't add it up if it comes to the same amount, but is that those large chunk of CDA money, is that because of CDA conversation that former Director Noel Pfeffer said, these are not going to be used, so these are the monies that's being reprogrammed for the water?
Yes, this chunk is roughly $2 million. These are all projects that cannot finish drawing down their funds. Some of it is because projects were damaged by the tornado, and like the Urban League has we need to focus on this area. We can't spend down this money now. Things like that. And then other projects are there was one of them is Horizon Housing. They had a large fire at their property, and that caused the money that was able to be given to them won't be sufficient to do the project anymore. So a couple different projects. The CDA director will be here next week and give you much better specifics than I can.
Okay, that would be a question I asked because I know I didn't add up the calculation, but if you said roughly about $2 million, I think there's roughly about $4 million. So the question is, what is going to happen with the rest of the additional $2 million that we need to make sure we get out the door? Is that going to go more to water? Is that going to else? Is that going to go to the other ARPA bill that we have that is going for tornado relief? So I know there's extra money out there that we want to reappropriate. So curious what's going on with that one. And then last one, is there a reason I guess we didn't, I always think this is a critical one and it's so much funding, a reason we didn't get maybe it's a question for the department, the money for summer and year-round youth programming. Is that is that?
Yes. Are you talking about under slate or under?
Violence prevention. It says summer and year-round youth programming about 6. I can't see it. It's kind of blurry.
Yeah, that is under 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 separate grant or contracts. So I know it looks like a lot total, but it's under 5 separate contracts. Most of them was because they didn't fully staff up until the end of 2025. So the like year of salary that was going to go towards the person that wasn't employed until the end of 2025 needs to come back, that kind of thing. And then, yeah, or they don't believe they'll be able to hire a position at all so that we're getting back basically that person's salary. And you can't reallocate appropriation that was supposed to be a salary into direct needs.
And we are able to reappropriate, because I always thought we had hard guidelines, and I see like a counselor here. I thought we had heavy hard guidelines that we was able to appropriate. I think by 2025 we had to have it all appropriated and then all spent by this year. The way that we're reappropriating these funds for water is legally available to do,
Yes.
even though it's a different purpose of what the funds was originally allocated for.
Yeah, under the Treasury guidelines, yes. Do you
Thank you. That is an important question. The City Councilor's office is here to talk about the Treasury guidelines. All right, Madam Chair, I have her speak. Wonderful. Come on up. Thank you. Make sure to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Nancy Walsh from the City Councilor's office. So that's a great question, Alderman Aldridge. We were required to have all the funds obligated by the end of 2024, which means the city was bound in some document to spend it on certain things. Treasury later gave additional guidelines that allowed for some flexibility to move funding among projects, et cetera, or even create new projects if you could fit it into certain lanes. One lane is you can treat, if you have enough revenue replacement dollars allocated to your city, you can treat certain funds as revenue replacement and pay yourself back for expenses that you had before the end of 2024. So, for instance, the water department spent a lot of local money, as it always does, in 2024 for various repairs. We are allowed to, and you'll see wording in this bill that says this is being used as revenue replacement to pay the water division back for 2024 expenses. And they will put together those details. They've already figured out what expenses they can use to justify that. So we're really taking money, that's ARPA money, paying ourselves back, for those expenses, and then we can hand the money over to water to use for new projects. So ARPA, Treasury, will really, when we report, we will be reporting those dollars, which we're taking as excess dollars from projects that aren't getting done on time. We're taking those dollars and reporting them under those old ARPA projects, which were not only obligated, they were actually expended in 2024. And essentially converting that to local money that we can spend with the water division. So I know that's complicated, but we figured out how to do that, and Treasury has expressly said we can do it.
Well, I have full faith in you, Ms. Nancy, and everyone in the City Councilor's office, just so for its public viewership, that we are able to still, because I think sometimes there was confusion if we obligated it already, if we could move it, but you guys did the dot the I's and cross the T's, so I trust our legal here.
And we do have to be careful, and that's why we want to look at every situation one-on-one, because we have to be careful about how we can't just do it however we want. We have to be careful and fit it into their guidelines.
So that's why we're holding, just to make sure all I's are officially dotted and T's across on this bill.
Right.
Gotcha. And just last comment, I do appreciate, I think the Alderwoman from the 13th Ward will say, make sure everything is spent. I see y'all even spending like 70 cents on items, $29 on items, 68 cents on items. So trying to get every penny out the door. Appreciate even the small nicks and crannies. Thank you, Alderwoman.
Thank you.
Vice Chair Sanye.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, members of the committee. I've been able to have a lot of conversations with the Alderwoman off record, as well as the mayor's office, and I would just thank them for being very responsive and addressing my concerns. I think some of the details are still being worked out, but hopefully we've got a resolution until next week. And so I'll hold my questions until next week, where hopefully my concern is addressed, and some of the questions that I have specifically for department heads, they're here to address it. So for now, just thank you for your work on this, and thank everyone for their responsiveness in addressing some of the concerns.
Thank you.
Alderman Aldridge.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Sorry to be that guy. Only request that I would have, I guess, to the mayor's office, and maybe can work in coordination with HUDZ. I know we already had a meeting to get an update on where we was with funding. Since these legislations would change some price tags, it would be good to get another update of, where are we with actual all ARPA funds if these bills were to pass, and like what's still left out there on the table, or so it's a holistic approach of everything as we're moving money to get an update on where we are currently at with ARPA.
I think that's a great idea. And I think the dashboard being updated and all of that is also really important. A lot of people look at this committee and at that information online to know where the city's at. So thank you. I think that request is being taken back as we speak. I can hear her typing ferociously in the background.
And I know we got the best chairwoman that always will make things possible when
For sure.
needed. So I guess that's more of at the mayor's office to come holler at HUDZ.
Okay, Vice Chair Saya.
This would just be for next week, so not something you can answer now. Just if we could have a list of if there were any organizations that were supposed to be funding, like we can click on the link and kind of see the legislation or ordinance, but I know that some of the money was in conversation with specific organizations. I kind of was able to do some digging and find it myself, but if it was a way that we could know any of the, like a list of organizations and the amounts that were supposed to go to them, or if they were contacted, it was just kind of difficult as I was sifting through to figure out, like, did the money just sit with CDA, or were there conversations with other entities and problems in the contract? So any information on that would be helpful.
Thank you. I appreciate that question. The frequently asked question list that's being finalized this week does get to a lot of that, where specifically the money went to exactly why it wasn't spent or couldn't be spent. That's may sound like the same thing, but it's a difference. So all of those specifics definitely for the end of this committee will have in their hands.
Thank you.
All right, was there anything else you wanted to?
No, I thank you, Madam Chairwoman, members of the committee, for hearing this bill today. Even though we're not taking a vote, I do anticipate there will be some changes in the bill as those I's are dotted and T's are crossed, as Alderman Aldridge said. And I look forward to coming back next week to discussing this more, and really appreciate your time hearing this bill today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. With that, I'll turn it over to Vice Chair Sanya.
Thank you, Chairwoman. You are recognized to speak to Board Bill 157. Did you want to do 157 or 158 first?
Actually, that's what I was going to ask, Madam Vice Chair. Since I'm going to wait, I would like Julian or someone from the STR Recovery Office to be in here for Board Bill
157.
And can we just go ahead with 158?
Okay. Madam Chairwoman, you're recognized to speak to Board Bill 158.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, can you read the summary for Board Bill 158?
Board Bill 158, introduced by Alderwoman Shameen Clark Hubbard, an ordinance amending ordinance number 72051, which ordinance repeal ordinance number 69056 to repeal certain provisions of ordinance number 72051 and reestablish a Clean Energy Development Board to administer a property assessed clean energy program within the city of St. Louis.
Thank you so much. So Board Bill 158 is a cleanup bill. I've been here 6 years at this time now, going on 7th, and I absolutely learned a lesson with this one. So, I stood up before you all, my colleagues, here on October 14th and talked about how this is going to open the gates and get another tool in the toolbox and take away the monopoly. I was excited about being able to champion this, and 6 little words turned that whole bill around. And thankful to the lawyers at SLDC, City Council's office here, Mr. Campbell, Josh Campbell, that reached out to me as well. I'm grateful for this opportunity to now stand before you and ask for your support in 158 and for the grace and timing to be able to course correct this legislation and get it on path for some things that are coming down the pipeline in the city of St. Louis as we speak. So Board Bill 158 will reinstate the work, the business that our St. Louis City PACE program is able to do. Again, taking away those 6 little words in the middle of that bill in Section 2 that repealed the authorizing ordinance for them. And with that, I will accept any questions you may have, and hoping to have your support here and on the floor as well. I am going to try to suspend the rules to move this as quickly as possible because, again, the work that's being done as we speak.
Thank you, Chairwoman. We will go through the committee in order of seniority. Alderman.
No questions.
Thank you. Alderwoman Schweitzer.
Thank you so much for catching this and for working quickly to get it fixed. I appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Excellent. Alderwoman Keys.
I have no questions. Thank you.
Excellent. Alderman Browning.
No questions. Just thank you for returning to this. It's good that we always check back and figure out how to make things work better. So I really appreciate you coming back and putting the work in.
Excellent. Alderman Aldrich. Okay. I don't have any questions either. I actually think this is good for the public to see. This is how legislation works. We always say that the work happens in committee, Chairwoman.
Yes, absolutely.
And this is the work. So I don't have a question. I would just like to make a motion to embank Board Bill 158.
Second, previous row.
Hearing no objections, we have embanked, and hopefully that will support the Alderwoman in her efforts to suspend the rules to get us moved along.
Absolutely will. Thank you so much. With that, again, thank you, and I'm asking for your favorable consideration and do pass recommendation for Board Bill 158.
I make a motion that we pass Board Bill 158 with a due pass recommendation.
Second.
Previous row.
Hearing no objections, Board Bill 158 has successfully been embanked and passed. Alderwoman, we have Mr. Nix here. Did you want to go back to 157 now?
Yes, please.
Okay, you recognize for 157.
Madam Clerk, can you read the summary for Board Bill 157?
Board Bill 157, introduced by Alderwoman Shamim Clark Hubbard, an ordinance recommended by the Board of Estimate and Apportionment, appropriating $3,800,000 of interest fund earned in the city's fund received under the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021, and authorizing the transfer of such funds to city's ability to provide services to prevent homelessness and displacement for households impacted by the tornado, containing an emergency and severability clause.
Thank you so much for Board Bill 157. I'll let the more detailed questions and answers go to Director Nix of the STR Recovers Office. But what I will say is when I was presented this, my first question was, in knowing in the back of my mind the challenges that we have with spending this money and hearing about this money has been spent, is where exactly will this money go? And I was told that it will go directly to home repair, which we know we need now, 277 days past this tornado. It was important for me to ask that because I didn't want to hear about it going to any administrative costs. I didn't want to hear about it going to any marketing or anything like that. We are fighting for them now more than ever to get these funds on the ground. And so I was guaranteed by the STR Recovers Office that this is going directly to the home repair program. And the only piece that might go outside of the home repair program is to an organization we all know and love, and that's Legal Services to East Missouri, when they work on their title clearing, the programming that they do sometimes to help support the residents on title clearing. And so with that, there is an amendment that I'm asking that we adopt. Amendment number 1 is printed out, but it's in the drive as well. And that's just to make sure that This this apportionment specifically awards of funds appropriated pursuant to Section 2, subsection A of this ordinance, which may be distributed through existing or non-emergency contracts to specific recipients, contractors, or vendors, and for which requirements of the city ordinance may be waived due to the emergency nature of the eligible uses of such funds. Again, streamlining this process to get this money around. But when I saw that, again, I was like, well, where is this going? Because we need to know this is getting to the people. And again, they assured me that it was going to legal services to Eastern Missouri, would be the only thing outside of home repair. And with that, I would like to welcome up Director Nix of the STL Recovers Office. If you want to adopt the amendment first, or if you want to go, it's up.
I make a motion to adopt amendment number 1 to Board Bill 157.
Second.
Previous roll.
Thank you.
Perfect. Well, I think Alderwoman Clark Hubbard Clever did well, so I will just open it up for any questions directly from the committee back to the cost.
Excellent. We will go through the committee in order of seniority. Alderman Cone.
No questions.
Alderwoman Schweitzer.
Thank you so much. I think this is a really important use of funds. I agree that home repair and the direct repairs are just crucial, and that Legal Service of Eastern Missouri and the work that they do in title clearance helps move along issues when properties do have issues, to get loans and to get things that are just necessary. But if there's not a title, then that makes it harder. And so I appreciate that creativity here. In terms of the home repair program, do you anticipate that going to a contract that's already open, or an emergency contract, or multiple contracts, or multiple different ways?
Yeah, so maybe I'll just give an update on where we are overall.
Appreciate that.
Private Property Assistance Program. I know many of you, actually there's pretty high overlap with the Budget and Public Employees Committee, who I know I have the opportunity to address frequently, but not as much with you, Alderman Cone and Alderwoman Schweitzer. So overall, where we are, we have the Private Property Assistance Day on February 28th, where we have asked people to openly apply if they have demolition, debris, or repair services needs for their respective homes that were impacted by the tornado. We announced that deadline in late January. We were at about 1,600 applications at that point in time. We now have over 3,200 applications for private property assistance in the tornado zone. Our current assessments, we believe that there is enough money when we take SB1, specifically the $100 million from the state, as well as the dollars from FEMA, to cover most of the demolition debris removal that are required in the area, but the largest gap is in home repair. So about 2,000 of the 3,000 applications are for home repair, while we are early into the cycle of actually assessing the homes for eligibility, whether they fit the program and how much they cost. We know the need, if all those homes were approved, is well over $150 million in home repair costs. So I wanted to kind of level set on that being the bigger topic and the bigger number that I know I shared in the elected officials briefing last week, but a problem that I know me and the mayor are trying to reconcile. How do we start to address a need that's way more massive than this $3.8 million? What this $3.8 million does, it does go to an existing contract. We have already awarded SLS as our primary provider, so the infrastructure that supports all of the repaired properties work is already set up. They actually will be running out of funds relative to the number of homes pipeline here in the next couple of weeks, so this funds will help support them to continue about a month more amount of work that it can add into the pipeline. So it'll go immediately into an existing amendment to just increase the not to exceed for an existing contract, and then flow out directly to contractors and to families.
Thank you. And that information was also helpful in kind of my next question, which was, how soon do you anticipate the money being spent? Definitely by the end of 2026, but you said it's another month of work. So yeah, good to know. So do you anticipate this summer, or?
So yeah, so the way it'll work is as soon as it's approved by the Board of Aldermen, we'll get it passed through ENA and immediately add the amendment to that contract. We already have the homes queued up. So as soon as we have confidence that the money's flowing, we'll start queuing up the contractors for that. It's usually about 75 days from the day we have the repair estimate to when the work is completed. Work is billed at the end of that completion. But for the contractor to take on the work, they have to know that we have the funds obligated to the contract to support that work for them to be comfortable doing it. But they'll usually reimburse within 15 to 30 days after the work is completed and keys are turned back over, and it goes through city inspections to say the work was performed accurately.
Thank you so much. Those are all my questions, and I'd like to be added as a co-sponsor to this bill. Thank you.
Alderwoman Keys.
No questions, but I would like to be added as co-sponsor.
So
Alderman,
noted.
thank you. Alderman Brownie.
Thank you. I'd like to start by requesting or making a motion to embank this.
Second.
Please roll.
Alderman Browning made a call for embank. I did a call for second, and Alderman Schweitzer did a call for previous row. No objections. We have embanked this.
Thank you. I think it's clear that we all very much in support of this and continue to be in support of tornado relief. I think when it comes to what we see out in our city, the common refrain I keep hearing is it's been 9 months now, and look, this block still has a bunch of homes that are falling down. And there's this feeling like nothing's being done. But I think when it comes to talking about the actual appearance on the ground, which I think is what matters most to our residents, what they're experiencing, and very few are going to watch this HUDZ meeting, but just to get the information out there, when we talk about title clearance, that is something that is directly affecting whether or not we can get onto private property and do debris removal or do anything else. Is that correct?
It is. I will say it's not our major problem. So when we look at the number of properties that we've moved through, we've had about 47 properties, last numbers I looked, that have gone through legal services support title clearance. That's out of already over 500 that are processed. So we're not seeing a huge number, luckily, that have had title issues, but we are working directly with those. The main issues for people not seeing visibility on the ground has been largely the length of time it's taken for the state FEMA contracts to be set up to start doing work on the ground. That work will accelerate in earnest in March, is still the estimated timeline from the state. And then the other one has been, before, the city only had its Healthy Home Repair Program, was the only repair program doing work on the ground. Our office has been in the process of setting up a whole new program underneath Private Property Assistance Program that has just started moving the initial pipeline of about the 4 to 5 million and removing those repair estimates through pipeline. So we've onboarded contractors and that work has already started. And so what we expect to see is in March, both increased demolition and a lot more earnest speed toward repairs over that month. Still small relative to the size of the need, but a lot more visible progress than what we've had over the last 8 to 9 months.
That's really helpful. And what we really need from people is just to work with the city to sign those agreements that let us come onto their private property as needed. I'm grateful to hear that the applications for the private property assistance has improved somewhat since we last met at budget and discussed this. I think it's really important that people do see that progress on the ground, but understand what has held us up from getting to that point so far. I mean, what I've heard you say is that we had the Healthy Home Repair Program previous to this, but that the infrastructure to do something at this scale just wasn't really there pre-tornado and was difficult to set up quickly post-tornado. Obviously, nobody plans for this to happen to our city, and the city wasn't humming along on May 15th. But we had to just react and set things up. And I think the recovery office has done a great job at doing that pivot and just getting to a place where we can get direct relief on the ground and start to clear some of this debris that people have been living next to for several months. So just again, thank you for your work and happy to support this today. I think this is just going to continue to inch us forward in that way that we have to do after a disaster, and we'll continue to make progress.
Thank you, Alderman Browning.
Alderman Aldridge.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Thank you, Julian, for being here a little earlier than our typical budget meeting. So I guess we're getting twice.
Appreciate y'all bringing me under today.
Yeah, we're getting twice in 1 month like we did in January. So just to dive into this 3.8 million and what you plan to use it for, because I heard legal service and also to streamline maybe the home rebuilding that has been under the Healthy Home, but you guys are changing it a little bit. Yep. So could you break down again what the goal of this 3 million is for?
So the 3.8 million will go to fund direct home repair and the direct costs required to administer that home repair program. So what that means within private property assistance, it'll pay for things like the right of entry, title search process, the structural inspections, and the repair estimates that are needed to start the work, and then it'll pay for the actual scope of work for the contractor to perform that work up to the $50,000 program limit tied to the program.
And how many homes are we looking at?
So depending on cost, let's say it's the full in cost, because sometimes you're looking at about 50 to 75 homes.
50 to 75 homes?
Depending on the cost of the broader set of repairs.
Okay. And you've been doing this for a little bit. Out of the 57, whatever homes, an average like home repair, could you like?
So right now, most of our repairs are coming in right around 42,000 per home. But that's not including that's the direct cost. That's not including the construction management costs and the cost to secure the right of entry, the structural inspections, and that part. That's the direct repair cost.
Okay. So roughly 42,000. There's about how many homes? About 50 something?
Sorry.
So how many homes need to be repaired? You said roughly about.
There's 2,000 homes.
Yeah, but you guys are looking at about 50. Did you say you was looking at?
This would cover an additional 50 to 75 homes.
Okay. So that's to do the average work you say of damage is about 42,000, 57. That would do. Let me try to re-say this. With the 57,000, just the work alone, you said is about 42,000. Just to do the work, that would get us to the 3.8. Correct. I just did 50. I did 42 times 50. That's about.
Yeah, so that doesn't include the full. So that includes the full cost. You have that's just a direct contractor cost. You have construction management fees that sit on top of that. You have the broader inspections that happen on top of that, as well as the ROE administrative fees. So we usually see all in. You usually see about another 20 to 30% on top of direct construction cost to deliver.
So it seems like it's like less money actually needed. This 3.8 is not enough. If that is just the repair cost, and then you also saying there's other fees and stuff like that. I just did 42,000 times 50, and that's about 2.1 mil.
So I usually look at about 75,000 as the max upper bound, usually what it takes to do the full cost if you end up at a 50,000. So that's where the 50 min comes from. The 75 is the estimate when you take into account the average cost of all those other pieces. So that's kind of why you land in between 60 and 75,000 for the average home.
Okay. And you just saying if we, with this 3.8, this would just be able to help fill the gap. There is thousands, but just help fill the gap of about 50 something homes.
Yeah. And we're roughly targeting about 40, we're starting at about 40 houses a month, trying to ramp up to about 100. So this would give us more one room to cover more homes, more months of homes over the course of the next.
And as this go through the ENA process, maybe if it moves quick, I mean, how soon do you expect this like money to be out on the ground? So to be depleted.
So right now, I'll have to get the exact, but I think from the moment it goes out, it's about 75 days from the moment that we do the initial repair estimate and approve the work through completion. So we're looking about 75 days from the moment after we get it past 3NA and get the contract approved and then get those in pipeline. But assuming that we feel confident it's coming out of committee, I've already kind of put the contractors on plan to start to review potential repair estimates to make sure that we have that pipeline available.
So that the ball can start moving before, kind of signed through the mayor, which is good. I guess only thing my fear is, looking at some of the things y'all presented in the last budget is that out of the Rams money, and as y'all been including Board Bill 93 and 94, it seems to be like the office is out of money, pretty much of like everything that's been allocated and spent. This seems to be an emergency because what it seems like is you're out of money for what the board has originally allocated you all for. So you need this because
100%. So this is what we kind of talked a little about in the elected officials briefing, but overall the home repair need, if every single person who applied to the program and we want to service and decide as a city that we're investing in repair in an area that's been disinvested in and have insurance for a lot of reasons we all know about, the full cost of home repair can be between $100 and $50 million if everyone who's in pipeline right now was eligible to the max amount. So there is a massive gap, and for context right now, the total that we have put into home repair as a city combined with state resource so far is at about 16. So this would bring us to 20 million. So this would start to make a decent dip in that gap, but there's still a wide gap that exists in home repair funding.
Absolutely, and I understand. I guess what I'm just getting to is that we're doing this 3.8 million of emergency funds move to home repairs because the office is, I mean, it's kind of similar with water. Like water's struggling. It sounds like the Office of Recovery is about to be out of funds to be able to
Right.
continue.
We don't have the sufficient dollars for the need of home repair. Correct.
Okay. And so my concern with that is it's good that we're doing like 50 to 57, you know, and you're already going to get the ball moving. There's a lot of homes that need to be repaired. The Board of Aldermen can't file any legislation anymore. Well, we could if we change the rules, but I get a chuckle. Maybe if we do change the rules, I'm sure other stuff will come up. But suspend the rules is that as we move into March, and I know we look forward to the debris and the state to do their stuff, we look into April, there's a 2-month gap where funding from the board to be able to support the office will not be happening. And if you already at the beginning of February is basically out of money for the home repair, and from what you provided to the rest of the budget committee, I mean, Board Bill 31 or whatnot, I'm trying to pull it up, all of it pretty much is allocated and accounted for, and 93 and 94 is allocated and accounted for. That I'm nervous we're going to get to like April and like the Office of Recovery is going to be like, we don't have any funds, maybe outside the state funds that we're hoping to start in March, to be able to like proceed with work in the tornado area.
So where you are right, Alderman Aldridge, is the amount of dollars needed for repair. If we wanted to truly scale up to address the need, we don't have the funding to support the full scale of need of the repair based on applications we're seeing right now in the pipeline. So from that statement, yes, you are accurate from a standpoint of a full-scale operations. We believe we'll hit, it's hard to say because we don't know how fast the contracts can ramp up, but we are looking at about an April and May timeframe where home repair would slow down. Right, we've been in this process where we didn't have enough capacity for repair. We'll soon be into the process of maybe we've brought enough capacity and now we don't have enough funds, and that is a scenario.
Gotcha. And that's the only thing that, I mean, I'm glad we're doing this, to be clear, but I'm flagging that we're getting to a, as the months continue on, and the work is, I mean, we're talking about generational neglect, and this is going to be decades and decades of rebuilding. But what we do know is that we have an office and an avenue to like do this work, not sure what the feds or the state going to do, FEMA and with the state. But when we get to, you know, March or April to May, as you said, that, you know, you may be like during a time period where you don't have funds to be able to continue to do the work that's necessary from the local level, which on side note, what I'm advocating for is that like we should be giving y'all more funds through a Rams bill because y'all about to run out of money, but we're past that. Your mic. They're saying your mic. It may die.
Thank you. Can you all hear me?
Okay.
Yep. So yes, so in short, I think the Board of Alders and the mayor and our elected officials have a big question to think about, which is there's a massive need about home repair. There's also a lot of massive needs. I know you all water infrastructure, and the question is where is the Board of Aldermen and the mayor interested in focusing a broad set of those dollars? What we're working through is trying to make sure home repairs not slow down, so we are pursuing avenues with MHDC dollars that exist at the state level, with other dollars that can exist at the state level to help supplement broader efforts to make sure we don't hopefully see a lag in between. Is not promised because those are still ongoing conversations with the state, but there is substantial amount of need for home repair, and with the diverse sets of needs of the city, it is going to be a question that the Board of Aldermen have to wrestle with on how much money to invest back directly into home repair needs of people impacted by the May 16th tornado. Of course, you know my position, but I'm also in the recovery office, and that's who I exist to serve every day, but I know it's across a broad set of questions.
Gotcha. I'll leave it there for now.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. Of no surprise, my thinking line of questioning is similar to Alderman Aldridge's. I just I have family that was impacted by the tornado, and so I have real life receipts of how this is working for people in real time. And you didn't say this, but inevitably people are going to have to start talking about demolishing their homes. And they're going to have to figure out between demolishing their homes or repairing their homes. And it's just, if you are getting 3,200 applications, I know you said 42,000. Everybody that I know that has a home to repair, I haven't seen a number cheaper than 85,000. Once you get done adding the contractor fees, once you get done going through things, obviously there are certain individuals that have insurance, so it could be very different for those individuals. But for others, we're just not in a position there. So I would absolutely echo, Alderman Aldridge's point of like, we absolutely, and I want to be clear about my priorities. I have a lot of priorities for the city of St. Louis, but my first priority is making sure that, residents have homes and they're taken care of, and we can keep as many people in our city as possible. And I think that if we don't, get to a conversation early next session about what it looks like for those residents whose homes, because also every time you go through a winter, every time you go through a snow, every time it rains, your home not being repaired means it's in an even worse state. So, my family member who's one of them homes, the initial rate that they were given has totally increased exponentially because it gets damaged again every time we go through another storm. So, I think that while I understand like holistic conversations and holistic packages, all the needs of the city. Like, I do hope that we can prioritize this, honestly, with the same fervor that we should be prioritizing water and some of these things that's like people just have needs, because it is getting to a point where they're going to leave or they're going to stay or they're going to leave, but a lot of them are leaving and a lot of them are not leaving and staying in the city. They're leaving, going to the county. I know some of this is not necessarily your place to raise, Director Nix, but I hope that I can give you all the leverage and all the support to be able to say, because what I see is caseworkers and people who are working and dealing with these residents that are going to have to sit down and tell these individuals, you got to think about demolishing your home because we don't have a surefire path to what funds will be available. We're not sure how they're going to come. I don't, I'm not of the opinion that everyone can be saved, but we do have $250 million sitting. So some things could be saved, some things could be remedied, some criteria for evaluating the homes and knowing which ones are savable, more details on how they can be stacked with, the state funds that you mentioned with MHGC. I think those conversations really, really need to be had. I've been able to say some. I have 2 family members that have insurance. They're going to be okay. It will work out. Many others, it's just not going to happen based on the property value and what was happening. So I don't really necessarily have any questions except to say that I think this legislation in front of us is a good start, but certainly not a finish. And I think it needs to be prioritized for another conversation when we come back in May and we can file legislation again. And I would love to get an update on where we are. And I hope for you, I hope we can just empower you to be honest with us, because I think we need the honesty and the transparency and the vulnerability of, yeah, we're having really difficult conversations with residents because of where resources are. If 3,000 people have applied and it's average of 85,000, I would say the real average is probably between 85 and 140 for repairs. We're far, and I think we just have to have those real conversations and revisit them. So I really appreciate the Alderwoman's leadership on this. I give my full support to continue in this conversation, and I hope, it's a great start, and I hope we can definitely talk about doing more.
Yep, no, definitely. And what we're doing right now for you all is we have been doing a full unmet needs assessment throughout the zone. So we're doing a new assessment now that snow has fallen. We can get a latest view of what's on the ground. So we'll have a full estimated view of what the emergency demos are and repair needs are out in that area and the potential implications on a long-term investment to inform the full conversation of the full amount of need. But we are not taking our foot off the gas from the recovery office standpoint with our state partners, trying to make sure we also get resources from them there. But hopefully I know it is a priority of the mayor and mine to make sure that when you all come back out of session, we have a clear need, clear understanding, and hopefully very clear alignment to quickly move on additional funding into the tornado zone.
Thank you. With that, Alderwoman, you're recognized to close.
Thank you so much, Director Nick, and thank you to all of you all. The lines of questions are right on point, because when we talk about filling in this gap and what we can and can't do with this money, that discussion around who was insured and who was underinsured or didn't have insurance, as well as something that hasn't been brought up that needs to be brought up, that there are some individuals and residents that were uninsurable. Because I had constituents who had literally just received notices days before May 16th that they were being dropped by their insurance because they had flat roofs that they couldn't get up on, that their insurance had ran a drone and saw that. And this is in the Academy Sherman Park neighborhood, which got devastated. So there's so many, it is very much so case by case, and being able to fill in the gaps where we can is important in our important role that we play in that process. I just appreciate all of you all's support on. And with that, I'm asking for your favorable consideration and do pass recommendation on Board Bill 157 as amended.
I make a motion that we pass Board Bill 157 as amended.
Second. Previous row.
The second was from Alderman Aldridge, and Alderman Aldridge also made a call for previous row. Hearing no objections, we have passed Board Bill 157 as amended.
All right, with that, we will move forward in the agenda. Do we have any resolutions for review?
We have none.
Any committee discussions?
We have none.
Any written testimony?
One written testimony in support of 158.
All right, and any announcements? Other than I'll just repeat that private property assistance application, it was still open and it's open until February the 28th. So please get in the system. And this evening, in the elevated 11th Ward at 4343 West Florissant at the O'Fallon Rec Center, there is a tornado community meeting and recovery fair. Mayor Spencer and Director Nix with the recovery office will be there. That's at the O'Fallon YMCA. And one of the things I liked about this is not only are they making sure they talk more about the private property assistance program, but also what happens after you apply, because those are the questions that I get the most from my constituents. Next week's meeting is going to be packed, not only with Board Bill 161 and others, but we will also have a discussion, a presentation rather, from SLDC around development, the status of development in the city, as well as discussion and approval around a resolution for the Board of Adjustments rules and regulations. So I look forward to that meeting. All members were present today, so we don't have any excuse. So with that, I'll accept a motion to adjourn. It was moved by Alderman Browning and seconded by moved by Alderman Aldridge and seconded by Alderman Browning with a call for previous row by Alderwoman Swicer. We are adjourned. Everyone have a blessed day.